Hey, everyone, it's Isaya. Welcome. So, I'm Isaiah Gabriel, and this is a new episode in my podcast called Isaya's Inspiring Evening. And this is a new series. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about this new series, but I do want to say, hey, and good. I was going to say good morning, but no, good evening to my first guest, Lisa Hara. It seems that Lisa is always coming around when I have a new series. So, welcome.
Yay!
And before we go to your topic, which is very, very interesting, I want to talk a little bit about this series. So, my podcast has various series that have touched to various subjects, but one of the most important for me is the subject of the cyclical life of women. And I decided that I wanted to have a whole series around that. And I wanted to have conversations with experts. So I'm calling it Round and Up She Goes because we don't go full circle. I don't believe that. I believe we go full spiral. And then we found ourselves, yes, we come back to this, revisit the things, but we're never at the exact same time or same place. So, with Lisa, we're going to have a few episodes, I think it's 5 together to go deep, but this is the first one, and I'm really excited. And we're going to be discussing female health. But before I go into the topic, let me introduce Lisa again, although she has been on the podcast once, I think, or twice, but we've been working together in various iterations of our work. So, Lisa Hara is, I'm going to read her bio because I'm not good at pretending that I'm not reading. So, just so you know, Lisa Hara is a menstrual and menopausal health specialist, helping women and menstruating folks to address the deeper causes of their menstrual or perimenopausal or menopausal health challenges in a holistic and natural way, i.e., without medication, hormones, or surgery, so they no longer dread the time of the month or that time of the life, but have a happy, healthy experience instead, navigating challenging life transitions with unshakable trust in themselves and their bodies. She leads a quiet yet powerful revolution for sacred rebels who are ready to radically trust and follow their own bodies, cyclical, I don't know, wisdom, release trauma and internalized shame, and erode patriarchy from the inside out. Big mission, darling, but you're not
Yeah.
alone.
Fortunately, not alone.
Awesome. Well, welcome. And as I was saying, the general topic is female health. So you're a specialist, right? And I'm going to play dummy on purpose, as you know me. And I'm going to ask the first question, which is, what is female health?
That's an amazing question. The kind of health that deals especially with women or menstruating people who have a uterus and ovaries, or maybe no longer have a uterus and ovaries because after hysterectomy you might not have them. Still, you have, like, if you have an estrogen dominant body, then I consider that female health. And the reason why I'm so adamant about bringing that forward is because it's getting better, but there is not enough research on how this affects us on different levels, how this plays out in different medications. There are still things going on, like researching the results of a certain medication on the female, on the uterus, and it's tested with 95% of the participants being male. And
Sorry, I'm going to laugh. Just a minute.
yes,
Excuse me. Excuse me while I collect my common sense.
yeah, it's, of course, the first impulse is to laugh, and then also it's just so sad, isn't it? It's
Yeah, that's the thing.
unbelievable. And yeah, so and also that by now many people know that a heart stroke has different symptoms in a woman compared to a man, or in a female body compared to male body. Luckily, we know, but there is so much that we don't know yet. Also, a lot of the medication is tested on male bodies because they are more stable over the course of a month. And as a woman, or living in a female body, we have got these fluctuations of hormones that are going on, like round and up she goes, as you so aptly say. And so it's important to address the specific needs of a female body. And the menstrual cycle
I'm going
especially.
to interrupt because I really want to insist on that one with you. We're not talking woo-woo dancing under the full moon here. We're talking science, medicine, uterus, medications. And I think that, we have to bring that back because there's a lot of backlash now with, these women, they want to have this cyclical idea. It's not a freaking idea. We're talking science here. I just want to be specific. And of course, it's linked to some spiritual practices, but start with health, body, hormones.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And our body has specific needs, and the menstrual cycle especially is the fifth vital sign in a woman or a menstruating person. Because when we go to a doctor, will get like the blood pressure checked, the respiration checked, all of that, but they don't ask for what's your menstrual cycle like. What is the length of your menstrual cycle? How does the blood look like? What does the blood look like? What's the color of the blood? All these are indicators of the health in a female body. And we never get asked that, or like I never did, certainly, at a
I don't think I
doctor.
either.
And like even when I go to my gynecologist, she will not ask for my like the blood and the blood color, or like they will ask, of course, like is it regular? But well, there is still a lot that they don't know either, and that they are not aware
Mhm.
of, which is why I specifically chose to do the training that I did in female pelvic health, because there are just so many issues that very often are dismissed with either just take painkillers or some kind of pill, take hormones,
Easy, easy.
yeah, or go have a hysterectomy, you don't need your uterus anyway anymore. And like,
Oh yeah, yeah, of course.
or of course, sorry, there's nothing we can do. And I don't subscribe to that.
Yeah, we have to add a fit. I don't know how many you've counted there, but I think five. So we got to add a sixth one, which is you're making it up.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's all in your head.
It's all in your head. You,
Exactly.
you should be emotional. You're getting hysterical. Ha ha ha.
And that's unfortunately still the reality for a lot of people, and that's so sad, because it doesn't have to be that way, and there is always something you can do. And I firmly believe that you can take your menstrual or perimenopausal or postmenopausal health into your own hands and do a lot for and with your body.
Oh, interesting. As in,
As in
um,
being mindful of the breath and the way you breathe. It's like that. It's really interesting. There are, I think, I'd say like roughly 5 simple lifestyle things you can do on a daily basis that don't need like extra time, that will help your pelvic health, which is breathing in the form of engaging the diaphragm while breathing. The way we live today, we have a lot of like nervous system activation, we are constantly under fire, and then we start breathing just with the chest, or even taking like raising
mhm,
pulling our shoulders up and
mhm.
breathing like that. The thing is, the shoulders shouldn't move much. What should happen is that when you take a breath in, the rib cage expands into all directions, front, back, sides, and into the belly. Then your belly stucks out a little bit because the organs need some room to move. And then on the exhale, everything goes back into its normal position. The important thing to also pay attention to is that your diaphragm, that is a muscle that helps you breathe, that sits at the bottom of your rib cage, it's connected to the pelvic floor muscles, like directly connected. So they should move in tandem.
Oh,
And when you take the breath in and the diaphragm expands into the belly, then if you clench your pelvic floor, and for many women and menstruating people, we do have a lot of tension in there. We hold tension from trauma, we hold tension from all sorts of things, from stress. And then the pelvic floor muscles can't move with the diaphragm, and then everything gets stuck. But if you know where your pelvic floor is, and if you don't, you can always also ask questions, and I might write articles about that if you are interested in finding out more about that. But they are, and if you're listening on the podcast, I'm holding my two hands in parallel lines. And the upper hand, the diaphragm, when it moves into the belly and it
It
protrudes
moves
downwards,
downwards.
is moved
Yeah.
downwards. The pelvic floor muscle should also move downwards slightly, and then everything moves back up when you exhale.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
And that helps the flexibility of your pelvic floor muscles and helps keep the lymph and the blood and everything moving well everywhere in your body. So breath is super important and something you do so many times each day, but how often do we do
Yeah.
that mindfully? And if you just
And
check in
even,
every once in a while.
what I find interesting is that it's something that you were told, you should breathe deeply a few times a day for many reasons, but I've never actually, and I'm a woman, uh, heard you should do it for your pelvic muscle. It was in my head. It was you should do it for oxygenation, for
Yeah.
calming your nervous system, blah blah blah. But I've never heard that it. So you can do it for various reasons. You do it once, and it serves various purposes.
Exactly. And what you say there is quite right. The nervous system will also be affected because the vagus nerve, which is the main nerve for relaxation in your body, it goes all the way down into your gut. And when you breathe like that and the gut organs move, then of course the vagus nerve gets
Mm-hmm.
stimulated, which signals to your brain that, oh, you're safe, you can relax now. And so it
Mm-hmm.
has all these major health benefits. And yeah, that's why breathing
Yeah, but
is
on
so
top of that, it's
important.
got the pelvic floor thing, and having a past as a tantric person, I studied pelvic floors extensively, as in literally, um, and to me that was because I did a kind of a study. It's incredibly different, a pelvic floor for a man and for a woman,
Yeah.
and the man's pelvic floor is obviously there's no hole, right? It's a hole. It's one muscle with no hole, and what gives it's a block of cement. They are actually sitting on something that is so strong. We are not, so we are tensing it to recreate the strength, and then we are suffering from what I hear you say, from too much tension.
Yeah, that can happen very easily. And also, like the pelvic floor is not just one muscle; it's 16
Yeah.
muscles that
Hmm.
all interact, which is amazing. Like it's so fascinating when you study that. And I'm sure that we can talk about
Absolutely.
pelvic health in particular, or the pelvic floor, in a later episode. As you said, we will meet several
Sure.
times. So everyone
Awesome.
watching or listening, if that's something you're interested in, please let us know so
Yeah.
that we can design these episodes so that they serve you.
Absolutely.
And so after breathing, I would recommend like drinking well, which means like drinking enough, basically 1.5 to 2 liters a day is a rough indication, because it will help again to it will help your body hydrate. It will help the pelvic floor hydrate, but also the rest of your body and all the organs, and it will help your detoxification also. It will help your lymphatic system to
Hmm.
drain the toxins and inflammation from your body. And then number 3 for me is chew well. I'm not even touching eat well, but chew well, because the digestion begins in your mouth with the
Yeah.
saliva.
Hmm.
So when you chew roughly like 30 times per bite, that will help digestion, and so that will help your gut health. And then there's of course move well, and I say move well, not exercise and do sports. Moving is enough, just don't sit. Like, we often spend a lot of time in the car, driving somewhere, sitting at the desk at work, driving back home, sitting on the couch. And even just a 20-30 minute walk a day will have great benefits. And number 5 is rest well. And
Oh, I
rest
love that.
does include sleep, but there's more than just sleep that includes
Yeah.
resting. There are 7 types of rest. That's a body of work by Dr. Sandra Dalton, and yeah, there is more than just sleeping. But if you do these basic, like I mean, we do these every day on some level, and if you do them mindfully every day, you can already do a lot for your pelvic health.
Awesome. That's great. That's really interesting that, again, I'm going to own it. I have this tendency, right? So I breathe because I need the oxygenation. I drink because I need the detox. Actually, all of these things act on so many parts of our bodies and psyche. I mean, they do help the mental health as well. So it's like, um, in fact, it's like again being holistic with the body. Now, the, I mean, with not just the body, the whole ourselves, and so with our health as condition of being alive, basically, getting it to get better. Now, my next question would be about, this is pelvic, right? But it's not specifically the menstrual apparatus, would you say, of women that we're talking about. This is pelvic floor and pelvic health in general. Is there, so I'm not going to go and list all the diseases that are specific to female, because, they can find that in books. If you guys want to search, go and search in the books. Something that we can do to on a daily or weekly or monthly base be closer to knowing what's happening.
Of course. And like I am a big fan of menstrual cycle awareness, or simply cycle awareness, because I don't believe you lose the cycle when you cross over into postmenopause. As you, Isaiah, know very well, we've got still the moon, that is our blueprint cycle. And we cycle through the whole 4 seasons of winter, spring, summer, and
Don't
autumn
we?
every month.
We were
We
discussing
do
that
inside and outside.
just before coming live. We were discussing that we're recording this in January, and it's very dark and very cold and very wintry. And although the moon is in a maiden phase, I feel like I'm in crone, and you actually are in crone, which kind of adds to the feeling of winter. And there is no confusion. I mean, as for me, as soon as I connected with that feeling years ago, it then became absolutely obvious that I had been just ignoring it, and that it was not doing me any favors to ignore it, to ignore the seasons, let alone my menstrual cycle.
Yeah, and that's also why I sometimes say, and I know that this is like the subtitle of this episode, is "You and your cycle have the power to change the world," is because, as we've established in the beginning, we're all cyclical beings. We all have a cycle. Whether we're a woman or a man or a non-binary person, we all have a cycle.
Absolutely.
Some have this more like monthly rhythm, that is menstruating people and women, but a male body, for example, or testosterone dominant body, they have the daily cycle going on, which works according to the same 4 phases, or the yearly cycle, which is again the same phases. And so when we move through all of them consciously, and that is like menstruation or dark moon as this inner winter phase of turning within, resting, reconnecting to our desires, our truth, and what we want to bring forward this next cycle, then we can move with that into the spring phase, the inner spring, which is either the follicular phase or the waxing moon phase, when we tend to have back some energy, when we might be full of ideas, when we also have to tend our inner child and be mindful that we nurture it. Because especially when you've had a
Hmm.
rough childhood, this is the phase where things can get very overwhelming. So being mindful of not like overexerting yourself and giving all your energy away in spring. And then, of course, moving into summer, ovulation, or the full moon phase, when we tend to do, not everyone is the same, but we tend to have the most energy throughout the cycle, and we can do
Hmm.
stuff and maybe even burn the candle on both ends for a few days, but being
Hmm.
mindful that there will be an autumn phase where everything moves downwards and inwards again, the luteal phase or the waning moon phase, which is usually the hardest because our inner critic can show up. In the world we live today, we are not asked to be inward and to reflect and
No,
to
no,
not be social or to speak our truth. And so this can be a really challenging phase, and that's also a phase where a lot of menstruating people experience things like PMS symptoms or PMDD, which is intense mood swings, as in wanting to jump from the balcony for 2 weeks in a row, and other premenstrual
yeah, I think also
symptoms.
that there's in that phase there's also something that is very real that we can witness in autumn, is that when we begin the descent into the darkness, there's light all over the place, and the more we go into darkness, into the inwards, that we are avoiding the rest basically, and that we are told to highly avoid, right? And our
Yeah.
society does not. So the fear is something, that the fear of basically death, I
Yes.
think is hitting so many of us, at that in autumn in general. It's, the season of the witch, right? But every month for the menstruating people as
Yeah.
well.
And it can be a very powerful phase too, like a very creative
Yeah,
phase, and the time where we are reconnecting with our truth and can be discerning of, okay, what's no longer working for me. It may have worked for a time, but now it's no longer working. So what do I need to let go of and pause in winter and see what I want to do about it in the next spring? And by attuning more and more to your own cycle, this is counteracting what's happening in the society with the
yeah,
oppressive
definitely.
structures, because you realize that there is more to life than what meets the eye, and that there is power inside of you, and you start not playing their game anymore. Basically, you look through this
Exactly.
facade, and also a cycle is regenerative. That's why
Yeah.
I love to point out that a cycle is inherently regenerative. Nature couldn't still be here after billions of years if she didn't have time to recuperate every
Yeah.
year and have
And to
like an
let
equal
some of the
importance.
things die.
Right. And even destruction. I mean, that's one thing about the feminine that many don't dare talk about. The feminine has a destructive side,
Of course.
and that's necessary
Of
in
course.
order for new and stronger life to come from it.
Of course. Nature is
Yeah.
is again an amazing example for that, around, first of all, the seasonal death of trees and leaves, etc., but also on a more vast, or more king situation, when you have an earthquake or floods, etc., etc. That's also a regulation. It's not a nice one, not a pleasant one, but I don't think that anything is supposed to be pleasant
No, that's very, very true. And especially sitting with the discomfort. In
Mhm.
our
Exactly.
society, we so easily grab a pill or grab some distraction like social media, like Netflix, like drinking or food or shopping or whatever it is. We grab that so we don't have to feel the discomfort, instead
Hmm.
of inquiring, okay, what is the discomfort about, and what am I, maybe even what do I have the power to do about it? Um, and that's again how you change the world, by sitting with your own discomfort and looking at, okay, how can you, what can you do, because there's always something you can do, even if it's just changing your perspective, that sometimes can do all the trick. And I'm not saying this is easy. I'm totally aware that this isn't easy.
Oh no.
um, But by understanding that and being mindful of this inner autumn time, again, waning moon phase or luteal phase before menstruation, when we know how to journey this process of letting go, of dying, of grieving, and
Hmm.
allowing this to be and coming through it and thinking about, okay, and what do I want to birth instead in the next cycle? That's how we prepare for these bigger transitions in life that inevitably are going to come. That could be
Yeah.
something like the end of a relationship. That could be the end of a job, because either because you get fired or because you don't want to stay there any longer. That
Hmm.
can be children leaving the house. That is motherhood or parenthood. Having a child is such a big impactful thing
Of
happening.
course.
And of course, perimenopause, like the biggest transition of it all.
I'm not sure it's the biggest though. I think it's the first one that the big one that we do consciously. But the entering into a menstrual phase when you're 9, 10, 12, 13 years old is a huge one too. Nowadays we where we are more concerned with our kids and teenage mental health happiness, let's put it this way. We see that some of the people who start menstruating, it's a huge transition, and that they're not ready, they're not prepared for that
Yeah.
either. So we have, the entering that and the coming out of it. Both, I think, are huge transition phases, and we are prepared for neither, because the society just doesn't acknowledge any of this. you know
And neither
I, I
are
i
we,
was
I
I
find.
checked. Sorry, I checked the other day because I knew we were going to have this podcast. I was watching TV, which I don't have a TV, so I had to do and go and do that somewhere else than my house. And there was a commercial, and the blood for the tampon commercial was still blue.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, fucking hell. I'm just, sorry, but
Here
it's
they
like
have mostly
half of the.
changed it, fortunately. They have changed it to red by now.
I think they've changed it mostly, but I still found one with blue. And
Yeah.
it's like, sorry, but it's half of the bloody population of the planet that has blood, right?
Yeah.
It's not dirty, it's not a disease.
That's
That's
very,
it.
very true.
But, I remember explaining that when I was giving birth. They wanted to medicate me. And I said, I'm not sick, I'm just giving birth.
And
I'm
then
fine.
that's what I wanted to say just now. Is like, also birthing is such
Yeah.
a big transition, and we're not prepared for it. Like,
No,
not really. I mean,
no,
as much as you can
no.
prepare, you can always prepare to a certain degree, but then the
Yeah,
actual
but we
thing is,
cannot,
of course, still different.
for entering menstruation, for birthing, for coming menstruation, and for dying, which, by the way, I think all those four are linked. We are. It's not so much as to be prepared, but to be accompanied, left alone, and not left in the dark. So to be
Yeah.
informed and accompanied. And I think that people
Yeah.
like you who do this job, and people like doulas, and I think they're freakishly necessary, because it's not so much about learning about the things. It's, for young people who enter menstruation, or for young mothers, it's about not being left alone with that shit, basically, because it's kind of huge. And same for women, or menstruators entering perimenopause or menopause. It's like,
Yeah.
it's really so important that you have somebody, or many people, to hold space for you, to remind you every now and then that, no, you're not losing your marbles, you're just in perimenopause. It's all right. You're not crazy, you're not stupid. Because, I've gone through phases where I thought, that's it, I've got Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
No, you're just in perimenopause. And so, I think it's really getting more and more important that we have these conversations, and that we have these people that volunteer to support. That we've just talked about healthy people with a cycle. Now, on top of that, you have people who are unhealthy for this or that reason. And if this disease or their disease is linked to their menstrual cycle, or to their reproducing organs, let's put it this way, then it's again a specific set of skills that is needed to accompany those people.
Yeah, and it's I like to say the symptoms are your body's language to speak to you because it has no other way to talk to you. Usually there
Hmm.
can be signs earlier on, but when we don't know what to look out for or choose to ignore them, I myself did ignore and suppress a lot for a long time. Um, then it will just get worse and worse because it's the only way your body can talk to you. So it's our job to sit down and listen and start deciphering the messages, and that's where menstrual or cycle awareness comes in again. As like the way I do it is very simple, and I will link to a free tiny course that you are happy to take to learn more about that. But it's really just every day asking yourself, okay, where am I at? Like, which day of my cycle, which phase am I in, and what are three words that describe best how I am today, how the energy
Hmm.
is that I have today, and also, do I experience any symptoms? Things like breast
Hmm.
tenderness, pain, mucus. What's the mucus like? All of that. And that way we can start understanding the patterns, and we can start looking at, okay, this symptom shows up in this phase, and what can we do about that?
Hmm.
So that's why I'm such an advocate of that as a way to learn the language of your body, understanding your cycle. Um, and also
Because once
what,
again, it's not my cycle is not yours, and every menstruating person has got a different cycle, and it doesn't mean that any of those is abnormal. It just
yeah.
means it can be completely different from one person to the other. I was definitely told that for instance, that every pregnancy is 39 weeks, and I've always wondered how do babies know that to get ready on 39 weeks, not one day more, right? They
Yeah.
until I realized that in the UK it's 40 weeks. So
Nice.
In France, when they do the calculations, they tell you the baby's going to be born on that particular day, what they think is the conception day plus 39 weeks to the day. And in the UK, they do 40 weeks. So the UK babies are slower, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
Or
possibly.
we just stop putting human clocks onto bodies that are not counting time in seconds, minutes, and days, but or weeks, and we just go for every woman is her own person, and every body, literally the body
Yeah.
of every person, has a different way of expressing itself and showing up that are or are not abnormal. So, but how can you know what is abnormal if you've not studied the normal?
Yeah, and I'm the word normal alone
I
can be
know.
used
I'm
in very,
using it.
I know too. Like I sometimes say average, which also doesn't always add up, but like there is a range of what's
Yeah,
considered
but I'm
healthy,
no, what I was
and
meaning
there is something where you
when I
would want to inquire.
I agree absolutely. What I meant by normal here was my normal. If
Yeah.
I study my
Okay.
cycle, I know what my normal is,
Yeah.
and then I
True.
can be aware when something out of this normal happens, and then
Yes.
I can, take help or consult somebody. Um,
Amazing. Yeah.
but even learning my normal, I could need support because we're not taught that. So, just in case, because I want to make this clear, you will find all the links around the podcast in the podcast notes or above the video if you're watching the video for all the wonderful resources that Lisa has put up for you with her or without, just reading her amazing articles and, get started. And for some reason, I'm going to go there. Um, because we live in this world, you and me, Lisa, where we kind of talk about those things on a daily basis, we might be forgetting. And even if you're listening, maybe you're accustomed to that. But it's not the majority of women who are. It is not. We still need to advocate for female health being a topic, for women
Yeah.
and people menstruating, dealing with their own, learning their own cycle, learning how to help their bodies on a day-to-day basis, it's not done. It's not already okay. If it was, we wouldn't have so many ill people.
Issues, exactly. Exactly. And that's also because, like, I don't look just at the physical body, of course.
Of
There is a
course.
physical component, but there is also an emotional layer to this. There is a mental layer to it. There is a spiritual, energetic layer to it. And I believe that everything starts, and that's also, for example, Native Americans. Like, everything starts in the spirit. And when there's something
Hmm.
there, it will travel all these layers. And as a last resort, it will manifest on a physical layer as pain or
Hmm.
some kind of symptom. And so that's not the only thing we can look at. And what happens so often is take a pill or hormones or have surgery, and that removes the physical aspect. But as long as the others are still present, the issue itself is not resolved. And
Hmm.
it
Yeah.
will just manifest in a different area in your body.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's why it's so important to me to address that. Like, this is a wholesome, holistic approach. And
Yeah.
holistic, I also come from whole, because
Yeah.
you
I
are
agree.
at all times whole and complete. That's
I
also
agree.
what I believe.
And that's mostly the for me, that's the that's again, that's about studying my normal, my own
Yeah.
personal way of functioning. You were talking earlier on about the spring energy. And so I'm 56 now, and I'm full on into shit around menopause. Let's put it this way. I'm not sure I'm done. It's like, oh my God. Um, when I was younger, I used to love spring and summer. That was really, I felt like this was my jam. Now I don't. It's too much. It's too much energy. When finally we reach this, it's like at last energy is going down. Whew, thank you. I can breathe again. Uh, and it took me years of feeling almost guilty for not liking summer anymore, until I thought, well, I'm allowed to. I don't like it anymore.
Yes.
It's not doing anything for me, and it's too much energy. As soon as when it becomes here, so I live in the northern hemisphere. Just for I don't know where you are listening to us from, but when we reach the end of August, I feel like, haha, walking. Whereas earlier on, I remember feeling highly depressed in November almost every year when I was in my 20s. This going into the darkness mode was not good for me. So there's also restudying my normal, because my normal evolves, because round and up she goes. It's not like every year is the same one. We get older, we have life happens, to female. Sometimes huge life changes happen, like I've had two children, that means two pregnancies, blah blah blah, the whole thing. But even if you don't have children, a lot of things happen, and it's not about, oh, I started my cycle when I was 25 and that's it, I'm done. I think it's really staying in close contact with yourself, all aspects of yourself, the
That's why
holistic.
I call it cycle charting, by the way, because it's unknown territory basically all of the time. Yes, there is a pattern to it, but as you say, that can change over time, and that's
Yeah.
okay too. It's not nothing we should hold against ourselves or against our bodies. That's just life.
Yeah, but it's
and
it's
and
really worth. Sorry, go on.
the other amazing thing about the cycle is that I see it as a compass. I see it as a compass and a guide through our life. Because in winter, which means either in menstruation or at dark moon, you are most connected to your truth, to who you are, to what you desire for your life, to what you're maybe even to bring into this world that you want to create. And that can be like on a big scale, but that can also be like on a small scale in your family or just for your personal pleasure. But that's where you come back to every month, and that's your North Star.
Mhm.
It's your true North. You come back to that every month. And that also will change the world, because when you know what you're here for, or at least also that can change, of course, but your core values, I believe, don't change. The
Mm.
way you live them out in the world, that may change, but I believe your core values will stay the same. And when you come back to that consciously over and over again, you will not put up with anything that doesn't serve this
Yeah,
bigger picture that you've got for what you're here for. And
absolutely.
yeah, so that for me is like, oh, it's so important.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. For me, as an older woman than you are, there's a lot also in winter around. I'm not interested in the world. I'm not. I'm just not. And I can see my mother, who is very much older than I am. She's full on crone on a daily basis. I believe we have this. So she has a winter dominance now. She's 80 years old, and she is really not interested in the world. She could be painting 8 to 10 hours a day, being perfectly happy. She is not anymore concerned or even believes that she can change the world anymore. She believes that she can change herself yet, which is amazing. But and for me, I can feel that not on a daily basis, but during the actual winter or during the dark moon. It's like, world, I don't care. Go and solve your own problems for a while. I'll be dealing with myself. So I think that the really it plays on so many levels. And it's so enriching, should I say, to live a cyclic life and to be um, aware. Um, and that can be health in a holistic way, kind of. Because indeed, emotional health or mental health and spiritual health are also kind of, how can I say that? It's not icing on the cake, it's
Yeah,
part of the freaking cake.
it's the ingredients of the cake
Well, we've
somehow.
had this conversation before, I guess, you and me, but maybe in private. It's the question is always, and there is no answer to that, or no proper answer. What's leading? Is it, do I have a body issue and then it becomes something else, or? And I think it's there. It's the chicken and the egg. There is no finding an end to that question. I think it starts from different places for different people, and then you are in this ease, and then it touches every aspect. Um, Now, the last thing, because we're coming short on time, that I would like to address is also that the solutions that you have mentioned to keep track of oneself and of your pelvic health, for instance, seem like easy. And there is a strong tendency, because it's easy and because it's daily and it's not a big deal, to believe it's bullshit, but it's not. And it's the consistency of doing those things, of charging your cycle, of doing the breathing, of doing all the exercises that you mentioned. I believe very strongly that we dismiss solutions because they feel too simple. Rather, if somebody comes and says surgery, I'll solve it with one magic wand of surgery. But if I tell you breathe every day, you might go, oh, if it was that simple. But I would like to reiterate, yes, it is that simple, but it's
Well,
mostly
not
about doing it.
not maybe for every disease, but
No, but I mean, I'm not talking about disease, I'm talking about
yeah,
health.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, and,
exactly. For
and of
health,
course,
it's that
neither of us is a
simple.
doctor. We're talking about health, not
Yeah,
about diseases. We're not talking about curing anything. We are talking about taking care of your health.
exactly. Yeah, and it's like
Uh,
this isn't it the Buddha saying like before enlightenment it's carrying chopping wood carrying water, and after enlightenment it's chopping wood carrying water. It's still the
Absolutely.
same basic principles of life that you do every day: breathing, eating,
Absolutely.
drinking, moving, resting.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much. We've reached the end of the allotted time for today. But as I was saying previously, we're going to have a few more episodes. I No, I'm not going to put the dates on because it's a podcast. So you will have to remain
You
posted.
will have to subscribe to the podcast,
Absolutely. You
unfortunately.
do subscribe to the podcast and then you will have all the episodes. But Lisa is going to be coming a few times this spring. And both of us would like to invite you very strongly to two things. First of all, I would like to invite you to go and visit all of Lisa's amazing links all over in the podcast notes, and go and see how she can literally help you change your life. And the other thing that we would like to invite you is, if you have some particular subjects or topics that you would like us to discuss, we are absolutely open to that. Just reach out. You will find links for me or for Lisa, and we'll be happy to answer questions, to deal with some particular topics, provided you remember the basic thing, which is neither of us is a doctor, and we are not dealing with diseases, we are dealing with health. We are suggesting ideas to remain and to stay happy and healthy. Thank you very, very much. If you want to add something, you're welcome.
No, I think you summed it up perfectly. And by the way, folks, leave a 5-star review on the podcast for Isaya because her
Absolutely.
work is amazing.
Absolutely. We need that. Thank you very much. I will talk to you soon, Lisa, and the rest of you. I will talk to you soon as well. Bye for now.
Bye.